Aeroflot Flight 593. It took off from Sheremetyevo International Airport in Moscow and was supposed to land at Kai-Tak Airport in Hong Kong. Except, it didn't. It crashed in Siberia, southeast of the city of Mezhdyurchansk, killing all 75 occupants on impact. 2 children caused this destruction. But how? March 23rd, 1994. It was a typical day. The sun was shining, the grass was green, and there were planes in the sky. One of these planes was Aeroflot Flight 593. It would have been a typical flight. It was scheduled to take off from Sheremetyevo International Airport in Moscow and land in Kai-Tak Airport in Hong Kong. It was a routine flight, though rather long, at an estimated 13 hours and 39 minutes. The captain, Andrei Viktorovich Danilov, had over 9,500 hours of flight time. Almost 1,000 of those were in an Airbus A310, the type of jet they were flying. For context, the average commercial flight pilot will rack up about 25,000 flight hours in their career. However, the captain doesn't come into the story. He's absent from the cockpit recordings, so he was most likely taking a rest, and not in the cockpit at all. The plane was also new, only about 2 years old. The passengers? There were 63 of them, including 12 crew members, this includes flight attendants and the pilots, making for a total of 75 occupants. Of the 63 passengers, 40 of them were Russians, mostly people who worked at the airline, Aeroflot, and their family members. The remaining 23 were mainly Taiwanese and Hong Kong businessmen. All of them would later die. At 4:39 p.m. Moscow time, the plane took off and everything was going fine. Fast forward about 4 hours and this is where things start to go awry. One of the pilots, the relief pilot, had the bright idea of letting his children into the cockpit. Now, this would never happen nowadays, but this is 1994, just after the Soviet Union collapsed. And back then, the airline Aeroflot was given the disparaging nickname Aeroflop due to its poor safety record. Back to the children. There were 2 children, a son and a daughter. The daughter was 12 years old and the son was 16. Those are the ages given by most sources, however, the official investigation commissioned by the Russian government states that the daughter was 13 years old and that the son was 15. The son's name was Eldar and the daughter's name was Yana. Their father, his name was Kudrinsky, said to his daughter, "Come here and sit now in my seat, would you like that?" The daughter came into the seat and was there for 7.5 minutes, all the while talking with her father, distracting the crew. At this time, there is Yana, Eldar, Kudrinsky, the co-pilot Piskarov, and another passenger who was a pilot, Markov. Markov, however, wasn't at the controls. He was still a passenger, though he was in the cockpit. Remember, since 9/11, no one, bar the crew, is allowed into the cockpit. This definitely wouldn't happen today. After the daughter leaves the seat, Eldar, the son, sits in the pilot seat. Markov, the passenger, apparently took a picture of Eldar in the pilot seat, distracting the other 2 pilots. Kudrinsky, the father, had the autopilot turned on, so he thought that the children could mess around with the controls a bit. Eldar, the son, does exactly that. He turned the control wheel with such force and for so long that the autopilot disengaged. A teen was now flying the airplane. The airplane started to tilt now. His father then said, "Is it turning by itself?" Eldar said, "Yes, it is." Of course, this isn't true. He had unknowingly turned off the autopilot. While all this was happening, the father Kudrinsky was distracted by his daughter, Yana. The co-pilot Piskarov tried to counter the tilting, which was now happening at almost 1 degree per second. However, Eldar was turning his wheel in the opposite direction and with much force. The plane kept on tilting. The tilting started at 17:55 and 36 seconds UTC. Less than 20 seconds later, at 17:55:49 seconds, the plane reached its maximum tilting capacity at 45 degrees. It kept on tilting. To try and counteract this, the plane automatically switched into its holding pattern, which is what planes do when they're waiting for clearance to land. While all this was happening, Eldar was still in the pilot's seat and Kudrinsky, the captain, was standing to the side. The plane kept on tilting. At this point, the plane was now almost completely sideways. Then begins a frenzied shouting match in the cockpit. The flight stalls and now is in a complete nosedive. Only now does Kudrinsky tell Eldar to get out of the pilot seat. This is hard though. Because of the severe altitude loss, and because of the gravitational force, Eldar couldn't really get out of his seat. Think of it this way, it's hard to do anything when you're on a roller coaster, especially when falling. For a few seconds though, the gravitational forces subside, and Kudrinsky claws his way into the pilot seat, gasping. The plane then turns upside down and enters a corkscrew dive at about 230 feet per second or 70 meters per second and crashes, killing all 75 people on impact. It crashed on a hill about 12 miles or 20 kilometers southeast of Mezhdyrzhynsk. There was about 9 feet or almost 3 meters of snow surrounding the plane, hampering rescue operations. And the worst? A post-crash investigation and several other studies have shown that if the pilots just let go of the controls and turned on the autopilot, the plane would have fixed itself, preventing the crash. Also, the pilots almost fixed the plane. If they were a few thousand meters higher, then maybe there wouldn't be a crash. This is the story of how 2 children crashed a plane, killing 75 people. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe and like. If you didn't like the video, then press the dislike button twice, and then, for good measure, press the like button. Thank you for watching Explained. New videos every other Friday.